Welcome, one and all, to the Intellectual Freedom Podcast, where we explore ideas that challenge the status quo, expand your perspective, and empower your mind. I'm your host, Dr. David Hopkins, humanities professor, and I invite you on a journey of thought-provoking conversations as I step out of the college classroom to discuss, analyze, and critique all aspects of culture, society, and politics that impact your life today and have the potential to reshape your future. So welcome to a podcast that stands for the power of intellectual exploration. Welcome to the Intellectual Freedom Podcast. I am glad to be here with you today and to talk about a confrontational topic, actually. You know, podcasting is challenging in many ways, and I know some of you listen to me and you support Donald Trump. I know some of you would never support Donald Trump and would vote for Joe Biden. Some of you may not even vote at all, and heck, I have downloads in over 137 countries right now with this podcast, and you each have your own unique political drama, from Canada to Spain to Iraq. Politics are different, yet in many ways they're the same. If you do live overseas, you may have your own version of Donald Trump or Joe Biden in your country, but one thing is for sure, I can still respect your opinion without agreeing with you every time, and I hope you can do the same with me. Whether you're pro-Trump, pro-Biden, pro-libertarian, or any of the candidates anywhere in between vying for the presidency across the spectrum at this point. This is not a podcast for me to convince you of anything. I don't have an agenda like that. I like to lay things out as I see them, no matter what the topic, in a way that, I don't know, in many ways solidifies things for me intellectually. I like to keep this like a personal conversation between you and I. Like I tell my students in class, I don't care what you think, just that you learn to think critically. And when in discussion, openly, honestly, and respectfully, listen to opposing positions. I mean, it takes zero mental muscle to listen to or engage with people who think like you all the time. Those echo chambers are safe and they're comfortable. But what really takes mental muscle and demonstrates true intellect is the capacity to listen to opposing views without flying off the rails in anger, anxiety, and resentment. Now, this is where true mental muscle is built. So, I know it should go without saying, but be confident. My critique of a politician doesn't minimize the respect I have for your opinion to vote your way. Politicians, they love it when us average voters, we're throwing our anger and venom towards each other, voter versus voter, instead of towards the politician. And if you want to express where you believe I'm right or wrong, for sure, just subscribe to my Substack page and you can voice your opinion on this podcast and all kinds of other topics, or heck, even send me a private email. I'd be happy to listen to you, because I will never be susceptible to that game of convincing the average citizen and an average person to throw their anger at other citizens versus the energy of their divisive failures being directed where it needs to be, which is towards the politicians themselves. From my perspective, they've played this card too many times. It's old and it's a boring stick. It doesn't work anymore on me. I hope it doesn't work on you either. I think this inability to just respect each other when we're talking about politics, I think it really sunk its teeth into the American political dialogue in the 2016 election cycle when Hillary Clinton labeled Trump supporters a basket of deplorables. Now, in our current state, it's not uncommon to label Republicans as racist, sexist, misogynist, or to label the far left as a communist, socialist, wokeist. I mean, could there be any of these types of people in either or both party? Well, of course there could. Does it represent the bulk of Americans? Not at all. But politicians, They love when we fight amongst ourselves and start attacking each other while they sit back in the background, smirking and laughing and getting away with their charade. I say all this for one reason. Understand in this podcast, all my disagreement, all of my venom is not towards you as you're listening in, as we all have our reasons for believing and supporting a given candidate. My problem in this podcast is with only two people, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Not you, not anyone who, for their own reason, chooses either one of these candidates. Oh, and I have much additional animosity. Yeah, it's high up on the scale as animosity for the institutions of the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee establishment. Oh boy, do they tend to make my blood boil. But hear me clear. I respect you and your rights in this country to believe what you believe. I respect that right. And dang, every single American voter should respect that right, even when we disagree. Actually, we should respect that right, especially when we disagree. And most importantly, when we disagree. I can tell you on this topic that my wife and we don't even agree on this podcast premise. Now, for sure, I'm not putting her in the crossfire to tell you where she may or may not fall in this debate. But even though I disagree with her on some political matters, it doesn't mean I love her any less. But somehow, somewhere along the way, we're losing the ability to hear things we disagree with, and we immediately get angry about it. We shut it down, we shout it down, or we cancel it. This is not how a healthy, functioning democracy works. But sadly, it is how politicians are grooming us to hate anyone that we disagree with versus hate the politician and the actions that they've been taking for, 50, 100 years now. Heck, people lose friends, family, relationships over some empty suit or skirt in Washington, D.C. after they have us all hyped up on fear and anger and hyperbole about how bad the other voters are. Well, my friend, I'm not playing that game, and I'm not buying it. I hope you can join me in your life and your interactions to change that status quo of raging hate and anger towards your fellow citizens in the area of politics. You have a lot more in similarity with these average voters than you're ever going to have with any of those politicians. And you need to direct that anger where it belongs. Square on the backs of the politicians that are trying to groom you and convince you to throw your anger back at an average voter who doesn't think or vote like you do. So with that preamble out of the way, let's get into it. Let me lay out a case for you on why the worst thing that can happen in the election in 2024 is to have both Donald Trump and Joe Biden on the ballot for a rematch. I doubt I'm alone with independent voters here, especially who the RNC and DNC, by the way, so effectively make sure that we have zero say in who they put up for president, even though we, the independent voters, make up almost 50% of the voting population. But due to the very conveniently strict state laws on primary voting in both the Democratic and the Republican parties, by the way, basically half the country of registered voters don't even get to participate in the primaries and who's going to be on the ballot. Plus, the numbers show that there are more and more disillusioned and, ticked off party people in the Democrat and Republican parties as well, who do not want Biden or Trump to run again. But in full disclosure for me, I don't pledge allegiance to any party, whether it's the far left green or the libertarian crusade against all things government. But my dear God, when I see polling from the two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, it looks to me like a swirling vortex of absurdity, nonsense, and foolishness. Because Trump and Biden are pretty much wiping the floor with every other candidate. I remember well the 2020 election debates. I was horrified as Trump went up against Biden in that first debate. I even did a podcast on that back in 2020. as I had never in my life seen anything more absurdly maddening than these two guys on stage together. I was literally embarrassed for the country. In too many ways, these two characters represent a relentless political circus where the same act seems to replay over and over again while we sit around and wait for a different outcome. Yet here we are in the early stages of 2023 primary season, and it appears that sanity remains a very rare commodity. So polls are holding pretty steady. I mean, they're showing that a potential rematch between Trump and Biden is pretty much a done deal unless something crazy happens. And something crazy might happen, and something might be in the works from the RNC and the DNC. But picture this. We got a 77-year-old ego-driven Trump with a slew of legal challenges, and an 80-year-old Joe Biden, often bewildered and incoherent, that I swear often seems like he doesn't even know where he's at. And he has a handler at his side pretty much every single second of every day to lead him around and cut him off when he gets that bewildered look on his face. I mean, goodness gracious, both of these people are actually handily leading their respective parties in the polls. Simultaneously, though, when asked, most polls indicate that most Americans don't want to see this rerun, whether they're Republican or Democrat or somewhere in between. But yet, the bases are holding firm, rock solid firm. But among Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, 49% saw a poll, 49% say they prefer someone other than Trump as their nominee. Among Democrats and Democrat-leading independents, over 60% prefer someone other than Biden as their nominee in 2024. More than 6 in 10, actually 62 total percent, say they would be dissatisfied or angry if Biden were reelected in 2024. Fewer than 2 in 10 party faithful in each party are enthusiastic about Trump, 17%, and just 7% about Biden. In the end, why don't so many Americans want to see these two again? Well, if you do support one or the other, which means you surely despise the other person in the other party, or maybe you're just a party stalwart, and no matter what, you will always vote Democrat or Republican. Let me cover some of the reasons that I think and I believe those of us that do not affiliate with a party are scared to death of this rematch and don't want to see it at all. Today, I just want to talk again 3 reasons as I think Trump and Biden together again in a rematch would be a horrific thing. Number 1, both of these candidates are incredibly divisive. We don't need any deep analysis. I think we all kind of get this. But despite their very distinct personas, they carry vastly different party placards around on issues, but they share one very concerning commonality. They both contribute to intense polarization. I mean, Trump is just word of mouth vomit on his polarization. But Biden's no saint either. His rhetoric might not be as stinging, maybe a little less public, gets less notice. He's not quite as sharp-witted, probably because in general he seems unable to share off-the-cuff marks, but his anger towards the other side it's palatable when he is caught off the cuff. But even if you don't want to believe Biden's personality is divisive, poll after poll shows that division is higher today, or at the minimum is about equal to what it was when Trump was in office. One of his quote-unquote calling cards during the last election was he was going to be a uniter and he was going to end divisiveness. But it's worse today. Trump's divisiveness is easy to spot. Biden hasn't helped, probably made even things worse. I find it hard to believe that either of these figures will help bring our nation together after an election with both of these two running. I don't think so. In fact, I think the propensity for even more violence, even more division is a much more likely outcome if these two people are on the ballot together, because whichever one wins, there's going to be intense backlash from this. We need to not put them on the ballot. Number two, they've peddled in deception. I mean, dropping colossal lies during the 2016 and 2020 elections, they both were guilty of it. Their lies would even make Stalin raise an eyebrow and think, damn, these guys are good. Now, I know you might be thinking, come on. Do you actually think there's any politicians out there that don't lie? Well, of course not. As the old joke goes, what do you call a politician that tells the truth? A rookie. So, let's be honest though. During the election season, these two guys took things to a whole nother level. You can remember some of the big headlines. Drain the swamp. We're going to get rid of 100 years of bureaucracy. Yeah. Or build the wall and make Mexico pay for it. Yeah, we're still waiting for that payment. Forgive all student loans. Yeah, that was a big backfire. End fossil fuel usage. What an absurd stupidity. Couldn't happen. End COVID. Both of them tried to use that a couple times. I mean, these two drop such atomic bomb-sized lies that it just feels so icky and deceitful. And I don't know about you, but it makes me feel like they think I'm stupid. As if I would buy the lies that they spout. Jeez. I mean, do they really think we are all that stupid? I don't believe I need this type of person in the White House. Usually, the most arrogant, the most devoid of critical thinking skills and depth of knowledge, those are the ones that drop the biggest stupid bombs. The biggest crazy promises. And well, these two, I just really don't want to go through that again. And then the third reason, while we must respect our elders, let's be honest, it is time for some new blood, some fresh perspectives and leaders who reflect the diverse voices of our nation. I don't want to watch, hear, or be witness to two salty old men flinging mud at each other. I am sick of politicians in their late 70s and 80s who get caught on a microphone, staring blankly at a screen, clinging to power in D.C. with a death grip, and they simply refuse to allow the next generation to step up and take power. Shame on all of these people, all of them. Not just Trump, who is 77, or Biden, that is 80, but my God, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, Dianne Feinstein. It's time for you to go away. Retire. Sit on your front porch. Do whatever. I don't care. With whatever amount of life you have left. But don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. This old guard has been on overwatch for 30 plus years as corruption, waste, debt, divisiveness have done nothing but grow. For the love of the country, it's time for them to go away. The fact is, neither Trump nor Biden is equipped to deal with this technologically driven world we live in. It's time to get some younger blood that represents the more youthful generations, the millennials, the Gen Zs. Are there good ones out there to pass the torch? I mean, I don't know. But how will we ever know if the older generations keep trampling them down so that they can selfishly and whorishly hold on to their power? And I know this is mainly about Trump versus Biden, but let's be clear. The real problem is the political class in general, the masters of the status quo who don't represent our interests, the people's interests. They've led us down this path of mounting debt. They've eroded trust. Corruption is off the charts. Their party narratives have obscured our needs and our desires as just the average voter. Outsiders are nearly non-existent within this duopoly. They're leaving all of us just disillusioned and resentful of politicians and distrusting our government more and more. Study out shows that people do not trust any of them, and it gets worse and worse the longer and longer this generation of 70 and 80-year-olds just cling to power as things continue to fall apart with the ever-mounting national debt, rampant corruption. The one constant in the downfall of America is this: Republicans and Democrats have been in power the entire time. Both parties have equally overseen and been responsible for all of it, every single election. So as I sit here, I totally can sympathize with the Trump supporter who voted for him and wanted to raise a middle finger to the political class and basically say, you get this now? You see this? You see me now? I'm voting in a guy who is saying things I want to be able to say, but nobody in the political class will say them. Plus the guy's trying to take us back to a world of sanity from the divisive woke rhetoric. Or even a hardcore Biden supporter who runs the opposite side of the coin thinking, my God, Donald Trump will literally destroy the country. Another January 6th is waiting and will happen. He makes lewd, crude comments about gays and blacks and immigrants and all kinds of people. He has to be stopped, no matter what. As I can't stomach dealing with this egomaniac for another 4 years and his divisive rhetoric. I get it. I get both sides of it. But as an independent, I'm not married to party narratives. How can we end this cycle of insanity? Starts with recognizing that change won't come from voting for the same old faces in the same old party. We can't do the same thing we've already done and expect a different result. I mean, really, we hear this every election cycle. Well, if you vote for a third party candidate or an independent, you're just throwing your vote away. How many people feel in the last 2-3 elections that you've pretty much had to throw your vote away anyways? It's time to embrace alternative voices and perspectives that can truly reflect our nation. Voting for Trump or Biden means embracing the status quo. Of course, both would say they're not the status quo, but they are. It's time to break free from this cycle, reject the narratives of the RNC and DNC, and to explore independent people, Green Party, libertarian options. I don't care. I have no particular candidate or any person to push onto you. As what I say doesn't matter. I just want you, or at least hope you will see, no matter what your political leanings might be, that the track record of the Democrat and Republican Party in getting us where we are today is, well, disgusting. And if you vote once again for a Democrat and Republican and think you're going to get anything different than you've already gotten, I think you will be disappointed yet again, because they've been disappointing people for 50, 60 years. They spin us into oblivion. Inflation is through the roofs. We've become the most warmongering, corporate paid-off democracy in the world. Heck, sometimes it's like we're in a dystopian plutocracy and not a democracy at all. Democrats and Republicans brought us here. They have made us what we are because, well, they are the only parties that have been in power in over 100 years. They, both parties, are 100% responsible, and now they want to parade out two of the most hated candidates in the history of political candidates for round number 2. Wow. Let me take a quick breath. In a political climate that we have, it's riddled with hatred and distrust and skepticism. The solution is really clear. Don't vote for any of them. None of them. We can wrest control from the RNC and DNC by collectively rejecting the horror show of a Trump versus Biden rematch and the aftermath of what would happen when one of them is named president. These two parties, these old politicians, are not going to give up power. It's not going to happen. It has to be taken from them. by not voting for them anymore. It's a simple yet powerful solution. If you want to reject the status quo, don't vote for a Democrat or a Republican, because these parties derive their strength from votes. Can a candidate emerge from the toxic political landscape to displace Trump or Biden or both? Only time will tell on this. I, for one, hope so. Our nation deserves better than the relentless madness we have endured from the Democratic and Republican Party. We can change the narrative together. We forge a new path, take back our democracy. But it's going to feel really uncomfortable. So, hey, if you made it this far, let me just say thanks. I'm sure many diehards on the left or right probably shut this off real quick. But if you're hearing this, I hope it resonates with you a little, or at least makes you stop and think some. Ultimately, my job isn't to convince you who to vote for, but just let's not be bamboozled by party rhetoric that you have to vote for the RNC or the DNC candidate. I mean, as we stand here right now, neither Trump nor Biden has agreed to any debates whatsoever, and the RNC and DNC is shielding these candidates from having to do so. So far, these parties, they're basically cutting off at the knees the democratic debate process, which is one of the cornerstones of our elections. Of course, time's going to tell. Time will tell. I refuse to believe in a nation with nearly 350 million people that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are the best and brightest candidates to be president of this country. I hope, for our sake and the world's sake, because make no mistake, the election season would be bad. The aftermath and backlash after the election might even be worse. But let's hope that along the way, both of them are displaced, or at least one of them is displaced. Just one person's opinion, but I believe even if just one of them is displaced and replaced with anybody else, that whoever anybody else is probably going to win the election, because enough people, as you've seen from the polling, unless major changes happen. It's still really early, of course, but somehow, some way, the horror show of a Donald Trump, Joe Biden re-election would just be a nightmare that could start a cataclysm of all kinds of really bad stuff after the dust clears. This has been an emotional but necessary discussion. Remember, your voice does matter, your vote counts, and your choices shape our nation's destiny. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's move forward together. Until next time, thanks for listening in. Goodbye and take care. Thank you for listening in today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and leaves you with something you can take forward and utilize in your life, or maybe gives you a new perspective and understanding. If every single day we just pick up a little bit of insight, knowledge, or spark of curiosity, then by the end of the year we'll be miles ahead of where we are right now. So I encourage you to continue nurturing your curiosity with an open mind and an open heart. If you found value in our discussions and want to stay connected, don't forget to hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. By subscribing, you never miss an episode. Oh, and one more thing, consider subscribing to my newsletter. A link is provided in the show notes. I publish articles, discuss books I'm reading, provide curated content directly to your inbox, and it's always free 100% of the time. And just as I despise being spammed in my inbox, I promise I never sell your information and I won't abuse your time by sending you stuff constantly. So as we wrap up today's journey, remember that the pursuit of knowledge and understanding knows no bounds. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep pushing the boundaries of your intellect. Together, we're creating a community that values ideas and fosters intellectual freedom. Until the next time, keep your mind open, your heart curious, and your spirit free. Thank you for being part of the Intellectual Freedom Podcast.